The conversation that I have for you guys today will be the most pivotal conversation that I've ever had on this platform. So buckle up, because today we will go there. But before we do, shout out to my community. You guys have sent me this case study, this article, an uncountable amount of times. And I will admit, I looked at this about a week or so ago, and when I saw that they ranked me 2 out of 10 on the male supremacy index for content creators, I immediately thought to myself, how incompetent of the researchers, how incompetent of the authors to create something like this, to so inaccurately describe what it is that I do up here. Let me just throw this thing away, because who would ever want to believe something like this? But you guys continue to send it to me, which allowed me to do additional research to understand the implications of exactly what it is. See, we live in a world today where standing up for yourself as a man is not only demonized, but apparently there are government organizations that are funding control of what you watch. And they're doing it blatantly right up here on YouTube. Again, the implications of what this means for not only myself, but pro-masculine content is insane. But this is the discussion that we must have. So what is good old MTR talking about? There is an NGO, a non-government organization called Diverting Hate, which is funded by, among others, the Department of Homeland Security. You'll see that written right down here, who, by the way, should be utilizing our tax dollars to protect or to tighten up our borders, keeping us safe, securing our nation from the very real threats that we are facing. These very competent people over at Diverting Hate, with the support of the DHS, have again put me on a list, crowning me number 2 male supremacist right up here on YouTube. But here goes the actual list right here. You'll see me up at number 2. Now, I know what you're saying to yourself, which is, what the hell is male supremacy? They actually have written definitions of exactly what it means, and we're gonna go directly through all of that. And truth be told, honestly, I'd be happy to wear number 2 if I thought that this shit was accurate. But these smooth brains put me above, amongst others, Fresh and Fit and Just Pearly Things. Really? Just Pearly Things, the platform who actively advocates for women not being able to vote, which begins, by the way, to tease out the sheer incompetence and bias of the authors of this report. But even outside the incompetence, the authors use the tried and true methods of positioning content creators like myself as being a hate group, so much to the extent that it's laughable. So we're gonna go through components of this case study today that is reflective of me, myself, and my channel, because what they've attempted to do is to bucket all content creators together as if we all believe in the same things, or if we all teach the same things, or if all of our audiences behave in the same way, label us all of these weaponized words such as extremist and male supremacist, which, by the way, is a derivative of white supremacist, but they're utilizing those words as weapons against content creators that were restoring power to men. One of the major goals of my platform, along with having a critical discussion to understanding the nature of both men and women, is to give men the information to live a joyous life. Provide them information in regards to the inadequacies of the family court system. Provide them information that tells them that they are in a patriarchal regime and should feel bad for being a man because of that. To provide them with the correct information that, no, your masculinity is not toxic by trade, but there are biological factors and reasonings to the way that you conduct yourself in a woman's response to that. And to think that there's government agencies that are funding, hiding this information from you is sickening. But nevertheless, I'm going to attempt, in good faith, to review their report and offer my thoughts. Without further ado. Now, before we get started with reviewing this case study, here is my call to action for all of you, because this report is proof that I am being targeted. And although I have faith that YouTube isn't as biased as what this organization is, as these NGOs are, you just never know. All it takes is somebody to not actually review my content, to get past the titles, to get past the thumbnails, and someone who believes that anyone that thinks that anybody who's anti-feminism is a hate mongerer can look at reports like this and I'm gone, demonetized, deleted, what have you. So because of this, I have gone out my way to create a community, a free community, and this will be where the empty army resides, which will become the best self-development community in the world. We're going to focus on 4 main pillars of growth: your financial fitness, health and wellness, identifying your purpose, and solidifying your masculinity. Much more information on that later, but click on the link down in the description box down below so you can join. Men need a safe space in order to improve. It's clear that these public spaces are no longer safe. So click in, beam up, and let's get active. Diverting hate, misogynistic extremism, the manosphere, and mainstream social media. Let's just go down. So you'll see even down here, they have in the footer that this is in fact funded by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. But let's just continue to go down. So you'll see here, this is, I guess, their mission statement. We exist to create a world where all people can be safe from misogyny. Now, what's interesting about this is that they're called diverting hate, but they only focus on one side of the coin. They don't focus on misandry. Their focus is purely on men. And I wonder why that is. I wonder how many different organizations up under the Department of Homeland Security are focused or funding organizations that try to dissemble misandry. It's funny how that happens, and no wonder you get the rise of content creators such as Sprinkle, which teaches women how to commit prenup fraud on men that want to marry them.
When you talk about the loopholes of prenups, can you maybe give a broad example? Yes. Be on drugs or alcohol when you sign. Sprinkle. And have a prescription for whatever drugs you're on, not illegal drugs, but prescription drugs that alter your alter the way that you make decisions, and that way you can pull that up if you want your prenup null and void.
Or you get other women whose names shall not be named that tell you to abort male fetuses for being male, some of the most sickest, deplorable shit that they're allowed to maintain with on their platforms. But I ask you, whatever on my platform has ever promoted the hate for women? Go back through my catalog, and in fact, look down in my comment section right now, the people in there that cannot believe that I was put number 2 of 10. But anyway, let me just get back down into the case study. So anyway, the first thing that I wanted to touch on was the executive summary of this report. And I'll go over this. The purpose of the report. This report serves as a crucial examination of the multifaceted challenges arising from the manosphere's influence on online platforms. Now, I find it interesting that they call out the manosphere, something that I said that I am not a part of 3+ years ago. But the problem is that if you have a majority male audience and you talk about the dating struggles today, identifying behavior or toxicity issues with the modern women of today, while at the same time promoting self-development to the people that watch you, they just place you in here. But I mean content piece after content piece, because truthfully, and I've said this, that it is hard for me to be a part of something where I cannot control the brand, whether it's Manosphere, whether it's Red Pill, but I've said for years now that this content comes from me. Now, is there some RP influence? I would agree with that, but let's move on. Its purpose is to provide actionable insights, foster ethical practices, and propose effective interventions to address the propagation of misogynistic narratives and extremist viewpoints. Pay attention. By presenting a comprehensive, it is not comprehensive, let me tell you, analysis, the report aims to equip practitioners, men's community and well-being organizations, policymakers, and VLOPs with the knowledge needed to counteract the destructive effects of normalized violence within the manosphere. Really? Normalized violence. You know, the first thing that I thought about when I thought about this term normalized violence is I thought back to the case of that woman that claimed that she was hit in the face with the brick, and she would often describe that anyone who didn't believe her as being violent against her. By the way, GoFundMe ended up taking down her page where she earned almost $40,000 off of a fraud, off of a lie. And apparently, holding those people accountable is seen as violence, normalized violence. Meanwhile, I've uploaded content on this channel that talks about men. Do not engage with violence. Stay away from violence. The seriousness of violence or putting yourself or reacting to situations where you're leveraging your emotions instead of responding logically with frame and stoicism to those very same situations. Shit, focusing on the Black community, I think most of the issue with the men is because of the single parent epidemic. They have not seen fathers, strong fathers, masculine fathers, demonstrate themselves effectively, and instead have watched the emotionality of their mothers, who then utilize that emotion to prey on those within their same communities. I've always maintained the importance of a two-parent household, that you need the mother as well as the father. I push for two-parent households. Do y'all? Or are you on the side of single mothers can act as fathers, knowing damn well that a woman cannot turn a boy into a man? But the lessons that I've learned from my single father have taught me lessons that have kept me out of drugs, out of the court system, graduating post-secondary from a top 30 MBA school, and then transitioning all of my knowledge to mentorship to these young men so that they can make better choices within their life. But is that what you guys are gonna report on? Or this normalization of violence, which again, I've never pushed? By the way, when they say VLOPs or very large online platforms, I think what they're saying there is the YouTubes, the Facebooks, the Twitters. They're pressuring the social media platforms to take them seriously, to control what they allow on their platforms. Meanwhile, I've never said this on my platform before, but guys, I've never received a community guideline strike at all, because those that in charge that look at the content, they know that there's not hate that comes from my words on this platform right here. So anyway, there's a call to action, all these other sections like that. But here's what I wanted to get into next, which is the male supremacy scale, a YouTube case study. Now, once you guys see the ridiculousness of how they're choosing to utilize the information on this scale, you will understand my passion. Together with the Polarization and Extremism Research Innovation Lab, acronym PARO, at American University, which I believe is in DC, we conducted a case study to investigate the viability of executing effective diversion campaigns. Yes, you read that correct. Effective diversion campaigns aimed at a range of male supremacist YouTube influencers who are prominent within the manosphere. So essentially, they're taking tax dollars and they're reinvesting that into running ad campaigns on my videos, that after you watch one of my videos, you'll see one of their approved vendors. But what is the scale that they're using to determine how naughty that we are? Well, the scale was developed as a tool to understand, define, and quantify the phenomenon of contemporary male supremacy, specifically in the context of online platforms. The male supremacy scale is a 15-point scale to measure male supremacy broken into 3 subscales: anti-feminism, female dishonesty in relationships, and women like alphas, with 5 sub-bullets underneath each point. Now, they actually go through and describe each of these 3 buckets. I'll read the first one. Anti-feminism explores how the participant feels about feminism and feminists in general. So by nature of this study, they're essentially saying, if you do not agree with feminists or those within the feminist movement, you are bad. As if there's not destructive messages that are pushed because of feminist rhetoric and ideology. See, I agree with the early starts of feminism that wanted equality of opportunity. If I had a daughter, I would want her to be all that she can be, to have the same opportunities as her male counterparts. I believe and I ride for this degree of feminism, but I do not agree and ride for what it's turned into. This idea that you're walking around oppressed by men is absolutely insane in modern times today. The idea that you have any rights within a society that a man does not have in Western society today is absolutely insane. I disagree with how sexual liberation is pushed to the masses, pushed to children, as if there's no consequences or byproducts to the damage that it is causing to not even just young boys, but to young girls in this thinking. I do not agree with the components of feminism that allows biologically born men to compete in women's sports. Watching these biological women get knocked the hell out at an MMA event is sickening. To entertain conversations of children transitioning their gender on the backs of feminist rhetoric and ideology, to me, makes you an extremist, not me. For some reason, I feel as though these raging feminists were listening to Sexy Red's My Coochie Pink, My Booty Hole Brown as they were crafting this pile of dog shit. But what they did is that they utilized a research technique, which is referred to as a 7-point Likert scale from strongly disagree to agree, where they asked participants to rate the content that they were looking at from what they've already predetermined to be correct, that anti-feminism is wrong. And if you rate them high, then they are a male supremacist. But what I found very interesting is that I have never seen a research study where they don't talk about the audience that they surveyed. Who took the damn surveys? Were the people that took it biased in nature? Was this a Likert scale given to the authors and the researchers and the editors that created this case study? Great job conducting due diligence in your case studies, guys. You really did everything that you could have to remain unbiased. But if you guys want to see exactly what those categories and subcategories are, then here they are. And I will go over some of these just for the sake of time. But the first one at the top of anti-feminism, feminism is about hating men. I've never said this statement on my platform ever. What I have said is that it is problematic when you have, for example, I got a friend of mine who was born in Saudi Arabia, grew up in an actual patriarchal regime, moved over to America when she was a teenager, and within her maturing as a young woman has latched on to this westernized modern ideals of feminism and actively complains as if she's in a society where men oppress her. But if you ask her specific examples of this oppression, she cannot give you any. But if you ask her, what laws in society do men have that benefit them that women have that do not benefit them, she can't answer them. And actually, now that I think about it, I uploaded content this very week where an interviewer were asking women on a street, if you were alone in the woods, would you rather choose a bear or a man to be there with? And more often than not, these women chose a bear. You have to consider the cultural narrative or propaganda within a society that allows educated people to choose a vicious animal over an adult man.
Would you rather be stuck in a forest with a man or a bear?
Bear. Man is scary. With a bear. Depends what man, but probably a bear. 100% a bear, which is like terrifying to say, but definitely a bear. Some men are very scary out there. A bear.
I've personally grown up in a society watching genital mutilation being laughed at. I remember back in the 90s, that whole Lorena Bobbitt situation and how they made joke after joke over this man getting his genitals snipped off. I remember as a child watching daytime television shows that the titles of the shows were something to the effect of, "Does size matter?" Do you know what that does to the psyche of a young boy when you begin to establish that your value and your worth of your man is through your eggplant? But point me to the equality or the narratives in media that focus on women's genitalia. And to think that all of that content, and obviously much, much more, that I don't have time within the length of this video to go through, is funded by mainstream media, begins to help you understand the psyche of why a Saudi Arabia-born woman that, if she stayed there at the time, would have not had the opportunity to even drive a car, come over here and complain about some made up shit because she's contracted the feminist mind virus. And because of that, is less likely to have a good established relationship with a man where she can create a two-parent household. Oh, by the way, she's a single mother. There's active conversations online of, do we need men? The men will respond, yes. The women will respond, eh. Meanwhile, men have risked their lives to build the infrastructure and to innovate on so many products that will allow the comfort of our societies to continue to exist. Modern society prioritizes women over men. Listen, I don't believe I've ever said this statement specifically, but there are certain ways where women are in fact prioritized over men. There is a reason why most homeless people are men. There is a reason why most self-deletes are men. There is a reason why most workplace deaths are men. If you were to go out on a street and ask men or women, hey, what are some of the issues facing women today? You can usually get a laundry list. If you ask these same people, what are some of the issues that men face today? You get a lot of crickets chirping in the background. Feminists are unattractive. My talking points are focused around unattractive behavior, and the attitudes of some of these modern day feminists are abhorrent. I just did a video last week where feminists on the show The View offered that men are useless.
So there's this clip going viral online of a dozen women being asked the following question: do we need men? Most answered very quickly, no. And only one said she thought women needed a man in their lives, only one. But when men were asked a similar question, do we need women, most of them said yes. So why do you think that is?
Because men are useless. I mean, my husband, it takes a village of women to make sure that he's not emaciated, starving, and living in his own filth.
I need my man 3 to 4 times a week, and
Good for you guys.
then the rest of the time I need a wife, because I've always said.
Yeah, because the value of a man in your life is only reduced down to what he can do inside of your box. The misandry here, the man hate here is so goddamn crazy. Now imagine a group of men sitting on a paddle talking about all I need my wife for is her insides. The cancel culture will come a-knocking.
That's totally differently in how I prep, because broadly speaking, I feel like men have proven largely useless. Like, I think in the political moment, the people who are saying what needs to be said in my party, it's all women. The very few men, with the exception of Mike Pence and a few others, are saying what they need to. But in life, like, I need my husband. I don't know if I need any other men, but he is irreplaceable.
But women have conversations about their feelings. Men talk about sports, cars, all that stuff.
I don't know. My husband talks about his feelings with his
Maybe he's gay. Next.
Hold on, I gotta play that M part one more time.
Talk about sports, cars, all that stuff.
I don't know. My husband talks about his feelings with his
Maybe he's gay. Next.
Maybe he's gay. Next. We have men self-deleting at a rate 5 times higher than their female counterparts. You talk about the importance of having community for women, but a man that expresses himself amongst his boys is now gay. But shaming them and their sexuality for talking amongst each other is a new low. This is on ABC, nationally televised, to millions of people. Yes, this happened last week for a show that was aired on prime time TV. Meanwhile, I have never, ever in the history of my content ever said women are useless. By the way, researchers, go down into the content section. You're gonna see lovely young women's faces as well that know what the hell that you guys are up to. They've been paying attention to this platform for years now. They know what my heart is, and they know what I'm trying to do. For these women are sick of y'all biased ass bullshit as well. Little known fact as well, I have anywhere from 15% to 20% of women that actively watch my channel, which is probably more than any of the content creators that are on that list, of which I ranked number 2. Anyway, I can get into all of these, and this video is getting way too long, even for my own liking, so I'll just skip ahead. Well, wait a minute. Wait, before we move on. Women use feminism to gain an unfair advantage over men. This is why you get women and public figures such as Candace Owens that hate feminism, because it's not about equality anymore, at least. It's about achieving a victimhood status so you can maintain power. But this is what you're ranking me off of being a male supremacist. Give me a break. Anyway, let's really move on. So here again is the list, and they actually had an individual write-up specific to me. The real MTR, the real mediocre tutorials and reviews. That's how you know that they did little to no research on me, or they just looked at the titles and the thumbnails and made their decision, because nobody, literally nobody, even the scammers that hit me up on my email that are trying to get me to download something so that they can get into my bank account, even those guys in Nigerian shit are not calling me the real mediocre tutorials and reviews. Did you guys use a bot to write this? Is a black male content creator in his 30s, about to turn 39 in a little while. Your boy still look good, doesn't he? Who engages in reaction videos to viral videos, from clips on sports networks to celebrity news. His discussions mainly revolve around demeaning the subject in the video, especially if it pertains to women. Now, what's interesting about that statement right there is that they chose to utilize a picture from this video right here. The title of it is right here if you want to take a look at that. And within the video, the woman is demeaning men. But see, within their write-ups, they only call out my response to her demeaning statements.
I ain't never seen a man that I fucking need, bitch. You're all replaceable. Don't ever get too comfortable and don't ever think otherwise. You're a guest in this household and you can be kicked out just as quickly as you were welcomed in.
I just get so confused when I see these ladies that are using filters, a ton of makeup, drawn on eyebrows, fake eyelashes, and where you can still see the glue at the top of their head for hair that is not theirs. So confidently come on the screen and talk shit about men. How dare you? How dare you have the lack of decency to come up here and to talk about men as if men are inferior to you? What they're banking on is that anyone who's a decision maker is not going to go and research all of this. The real MTR attracts hundreds of thousands. Thank you very much. Put respect on my name. Via conflated titles. Yeah. Exaggerated thumbnails. Okay, those two are accurate. Listen, it's the content game, baby. The algorithm is a motherfucker, right? You got to do things. I consider myself a media public, right? Like, I publish things. So you got to do things in order to attract eyes, okay? Because if you don't do that consistently, the algorithm just deranks you, delists you. Whatever. I will eat these too, all right? I pop off on my titles and my thumbnails. And above all, content that promotes a manosphere, which I've not said that I am a part of, and demeans women. Now, I forgot to mention this in the beginning, but when they determine how they give you this male supremacy score, they've only utilized the top 10 videos on your platform as a method to quantify everything. Now, let's say that the top 10 videos on my platform have 1 million views each, which is not true, by the way. But if it was, it'd be 10 million views. You know how much views that I have on my channel right now of all of my publicly available videos? Almost 300 million. So the data that you use to establish me is less than 3% of the total amount of views that I have on my channel. There is not a statistician on this planet that would say that the way that you guys have gathered data for your bullshit score makes any sense, but I digress. Additionally, the real MTR advertises different social media platforms aimed to get viewers to his personal site, mtarmy.com. This is actually not true. I am not aiming to get folks to go to this website at all. I created it over a year ago just as a place that people can just go to see additional information about me, but it's really not my goal. That's why I don't advertise it. But I am now advertising where the MT Army will reside. Again, link down in the description box below. For example, which allows visitors to schedule personal consultations and join a newsletter, an army. MT Army, it's a play on words. In March 2024, at the time of writing, he had 682,000 subscribers. A 7.4% increase in subscribers suggests that the real MTR is the shit. I'm just kidding. They didn't write that. Is able to attract viewers through his content and further advertising his follower base as an army. See, what they're trying to do is to weaponize this army shit as if I'm creating an incel army that hates women, and he's creating an army in order to be able to do that, further creating a brotherhood and influence within his community. So anyway, the report begins to go into this part right here, where essentially they're trying to sum up what I contribute to and why I'm ranked number 2 in doing this. And you'll just see here the propaganda. It's so crazy. From hate online to offline violence, the manosphere unabashedly thrives on the endorsement and glorification of violence. I'll just stop right there and I will stop reading, because please, somebody pull out any piece of content that I've ever said that glorifies violence. The danger of the incompetence of the authors and the writers to incorrectly surmise what it is that we talk about over here is crazy. And of course, because the DHS is funding this, they are then connecting this to school shooters and extremists such as Elliot Rodger, who became an incel deity in these online communities. Let me just be abundantly clear. If you guys are new to what it is I do not support violence at all. I support self-defense. I support protecting your community, protecting your family. I support your Second Amendment rights to protect you, yourself, your family, your relationships from evil people, from evildoers. This doesn't represent anything that I stand for, but the sheer incompetence is ridiculous. The last part that I wanted to talk about is, and I touched on this a little bit earlier, is the ads that they've been running on my channel for their approved partners. Now, I've taken a look at some of these platforms, and I'll tell you what, the first one I looked into, I'm not going to go into specifics about it. Literally, the first video on their homepage is a whole bunch of men standing in a circle, holding hands. And the first thing that I thought about is that what we're watching, or what they are approving, is within a feminist's mind where men need to be in order to improve themselves. These were very passive looking men. These were very effeminate looking men. These are not masculine, strong looking men, which makes me go back to the thought that these are the images that they want to project onto men today. And apparently this is an organization that has set the standards in our day-to-day of free speech of what men should be looking at. And if you do not abide by their thought process of what men should be looking at, you are by definition misogynistic. What I want these organizations to understand is that coming across as pro-man doesn't mean that you are anti-woman. I think decades-long brainwashing of anti-male sentiment on the backs of when a patriarchy actually existed is why you are having so much negative consequences on the modern man today. And a lot of this content is the antithesis of this unchecked and this uncriticized message that has hit men for these decades. Personally, I'd love to get into a place and a mindset where content like myself is not even needed. But when you have mainstream organizations that continue to say and stand up for the ideals that men are useless, I will continue to be here. I will continue to grow, and I will continue to thrive. But I guess on the bright side, if you guys ever needed proof that I'm not controlled by anything or anybody, then here is your proof. But listen, as I exit, shout out to my community. I can't believe it, but looking at the calendar, we are 5+ years in the game, which in media speak is light years beyond an expected lifespan of a channel, right? So many incredible highs, million+ viewed videos, monumental live streams that have pushed the culture forward, and countless emails from men thanking me for changing their lives, and women as well. Women have emailed me an incredible amount of times thanking me because something that I said on my video allowed them to understand their husband a little bit better, allowed them to understand their boyfriend a little bit better, allowed them to understand their father a little bit better, allowed them to understand their son a little bit better, while also suffering through many lows on this channel that I publicly experienced with you guys, being canceled by sponsors, going through cancer publicly, to the death of my friend Kevin Samuels, to the death of my best friend, my father. I've shared these moments with you all, and you've seen them. And I thank you for riding with me so diligently. But what is obvious to me is so many men today are feeling the sting of these dangerous narratives of single parent households and a materialistic society that was well into place way before content creators took the burden to steer them in the right direction, or took the burden to create a burning platform for them to understand the importance of learning all of this information that will aid them in having a joyous or a happy life. What I've also understood is that the power of a man that can think for himself differently than a narrative that is constructed for him absolutely frightens people like this, because a knowledgeable man is difficult to control. And that's where I'm gonna leave this conversation right here. Guys, again, link down in the description box down below to join the official place of my community. Until next time, YouTube, peace.